We can pretty much close the books on spring practice for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and everyone is going to continue to ask the same question until we have an answer. Who is the starting quarterback for this team? Stock report. Let's talk quarterbacks, how they look this spring, and how a decision will need to be made in the near future about how this race ends up. Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports, breaking down everything Notre Dame football. Folks, spring practice is now coming to a close. We saw the blue and gold game this past weekend. It's kind of the fruits of the labor of what is a long spring. A little bit shorter than most, but a little bit different, obviously, with the extended playoff and in general, Notre Dame football literally just played the longest season that we've ever seen in college football history. So spring practice was going to look a little bit different. There were some players that were held out, some players that were just kind of, brought along a little bit slower, right? So different paces for some. But the quarterback was one of the positions that was the most heated during spring because everybody was healthy and everybody was a full go. And this was one of the most heavily debated quarterback battles that we have seen in several years. Obviously, in the three-man quarterback battle, not counting Blake Heber, who is a true freshman, you have redshirt freshman CJ Carr, redshirt sophomore Kenny Minchey, and redshirt junior Steve Angeli. Now, I want to break down real quick how each did this spring according to sources and some things that we were able to see, and then what might the next step in this quarterback battle ultimately be. For Steve Angeli, he came into the spring as the oldest quarterback on the roster, obviously, the one with the most game experience, and he had a little bit of the inside track with all those things put into the equation, obviously. Now, Steve, from everyone that I've talked to and everything that we got availability to see, including the spring game, was solid all the way through. Wasn't bad, wasn't great, was just kind of even keel throughout most of the spring. So pretty much what you kind of expect from Steve Angeli. Well, Kenny Minchey was a little bit of the opposites. Wasn't quite maybe as consistent as the other two, but the highs got people super excited. We saw it during the blue gold game. It wasn't perfect by any stretch, but he made some eye-popping plays. He made some eye-popping plays during a couple of the open practices that were available to the media. And according to sources that I have on the Notre Dame side, they were impressed by Kenny, the command that he had, and obviously the playmaking ability that he brings to the table. CJ Carr, another player that this staff is very high on, obviously, redshirt freshman. He was viewed as the most consistent throughout spring, and we saw that in the spring game, obviously, with his high completion percentage, and he was most consistent. Even though he did throw the game's only interception, he also made some of the biggest plays of the game and was the most accurate consistently throughout the entire quarterbacks on this roster. So coming out of spring now, a decision is going to have to be made. Because I do think we saw an ascension of the two younger quarterbacks to really make their stake at claim at this starting job. And it's going to be really difficult after we get past the summer into fall camp. In fall camp, it's going to be hard to divvy up these reps to three different quarterbacks, the first team reps, and to be able to show and to see ultimately who wins this job. So there's going to have to be a cut that I think happens here in the rest of this offseason. Two quarterbacks, I think, is what you need to go into the fall, a part of this deeper conversation, because then you could split reps, and then ultimately you could, to make that decision, then ramp up one player's reps. Splitting between three is just a lot at this point. So I went into the spring thinking that Steve Angeli had the upper hand, but I'm leaving spring feeling less confident that is the case, and I'm feeling more confident this might be a battle between Kenny Minchey and CJ Carr. Now, CJ is viewed as kind of the golden child by a lot of people in Notre Dame fandom, but I do not want people to discount Kenny Minchey in this conversation. He has as much upside, if not more, just physical raw tools, and I do think if we get a more consistent version, this could be one of the more interesting fall camp battles. Put it in the comments section. Steve Angeli, CJ Carr, Kenny Minchey, give me positives, give me negatives, and ultimately, if this does come down between CJ Carr, Kenny Minchey, make your prediction right now. Who ends up winning the starting quarterback battle game one against Miami? Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe on your way out. And as always, go Irish.